Atlingun Chishawit to Katuhan. Ya Tsuhaka Tlaidak Nastant. Okay. Wasekanin. Berm ye kukwasti. Ye awe we Berminator. When Kanins ye koyautsaka. Tsuhade kukwadagut. Ye awe. Ya khana shukwa ya Lingít short stories. Ach tuasaku tu. Gunil chish ha. Oh, gunil chish a ka dak ha saitla ha. Gunil chish a ka dak ha saitla ha yi. Wasach tu yek eh. Ya shukwa a gwasach tuasaku yat a. Kleqanach kinach gach tu. Ya tlaik a wuch itch yuketangi. A qaha idek gach yinik a du itsak qaha. Wasa yaku yitzage. Ya yidat yisatin. Ke ju tutlitsu. Gwash yi tu. Ach tuasagu yinde jitlitsu. Yinde jitlitsak. A qaha in kananik a du itsak qaha. Adusa we shukwa a koa. Adusa du tuasaku awatu.
Ja. T'aawáḳ sutat utuwakuch a utullagaiji aste. Da saku klar guk.
Ach jinak te teich wujachin. Yesh yadi. Iit koha.
Yek test away a day. Don Quanay ye.
Adusa.
Hande Jin, eat Quaha.
Shunahwai in Kahwa'a. Jacqueline Kusin Ata. Eat Koha.
Okay. Octate wujini du rehini yek away wustak cross u. Gush clean.
Yachwadlak. Liz, eat koha.
Yande ya kukana shket achewe a achle haj. Kashuk.
Hat watuak ugh. Cheatwu.
Shayadach aware. Ayach de cook. Yes, Tuchla.
Hint Hwahich ya yi Yedutlitzin.
Ka awe ta ya I tu hint Hwalli gwat Ich kagu I kwa.
Yan khatlaq awe. Ya anach shawu you yan kach awe khat kaushik kash Utsaga iit yan kuaha.
Achawe Shunachwayi Tinak eat Kwagut Hasha Yaudune Kuaha
Yeewooyáat'i awa T'aawáḳ Conjugator
Anagút ade tuan heyi ye away Dísi. Raven eat kwaha.
Could you tell me which one we're on, please?
Okay.
Okay. Yayedi ka wujichin. Just per sentence. Such cake.
Chastak Yashayan Tulas Uwu Ke Uguatl.
Cagelet are, cagelet too, the cut Johan, two cagelet. The cut Johan, the two again.
Montlane.
Cheese.
Patea.
Ah.
T'aawáḳ ya Shayan Tusla Uwu Ke Uwagwatl Hint Wujichin.
Okay, okay. Shkalneek. Okay.
Clay Wooshday. Cow to slecht.
Yek the two.
Act away play grunaye T'aawáḳ.
Okay. Ha it get or hat the cut Johan. Ya he that cagelet too. Gwashis cool. I do such away, yeah, you that.
Tuch awecha kana nach yade ya yandagach we tik claim. Ye tuchka iwaha.
Gruftis llell away anach yach tu kuchuye kuste. Hande ijini kuaha.
Nanda chun away Gunaye Wutu de Hatch. Yeshiari eat kwaha.
Ashuadak away. Now to Hutch. Ya take claim. Kashuk eat kwaha.
Gnachish Henach Anach Chu Heyan Yaudegich Yechkagu.
Henach Anach Awe Uhin Awu Yaudune iit yan kuaha.
Gunashish Anach away Yautuwadlaq Yautuhaji Yedishatsin in kwaha.
You did it scene.
Okay. Good. Sheesh. Utle kunach ya yandu gaini teen awe diginog T'aawáḳ. Kusim, I'ikuaha.
Jeez. T'aawáḳ, Yahai, I'gayak. Dasakla, I'ikuaha.
Gunashish. Kadain yande wutua duk yaha ask e gushtlain i'ikuaha.
Ikanin kua shakte gachtu de kash. Shashkwani eat kuaha.
Nishish. Klach kunach. Kunach. Gan ha shoot. Shuachech.
Okay. T'aawáḳ, gunashish. Kunachoe yake itundatani adad. Wasa yituj takatuhan. Okay. Let's see. Where do I have these? Okay. So let's go through this again. That was a great idea. It was a great way to start class. And so I'll read the sentence this time. And then let's just talk about what we're seeing and what we have questions about. T'aawáḳ t'utat watuqur awutulshaqiji aste. I'm not going to question how they do this, but another way you might sort of say that is T'aawáḳ t'utat watuqur awutulshaqiji yede. That's what I would expect there, just by what I think it's doing. But what do we got? What are the pieces? What are all the things?
Later this morning.
Well, T'aawáƙ would be later.
Earlier this morning.
Yes.
Earlier this
A little while ago this morning.
We were driving.
Tuqur. Probably boating. Oh, I know the story. But yes, that could absolutely be driving.
They were going by your boat or driving.
Yes. And we could say T'aawáḳ or Tuqur. That's pretty, if you were, that would work for cars. What about awutulshaqiji? Stays. That throws me for a loop a little bit. That's okay.
Well, I don't know what the stem is, but what to preterite, first person plural.
Yep.
With a nominative on the end, ch.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay, everybody's got. I'm going to turn the class monitor off. So you guys can't see what I'm looking at. I've got some secrets. Okay, sorry. Okay, let's see. That's interesting. Okay, I have these. I thought we were retyping these at some point. So let me just see if I could find it. Hold, please. Okay, I guess we've only done a couple of these, which is, oh, this is interesting. Okay. So, let's just take a look. So we've got watutlaq. So let's go look up that verb. So into the verb dictionary we go. That's usually, I think, the fastest way to go about it. We're going to go to qeech. You know, anyone else want to drive? Anyone want to share your screen and look it up on your verb dictionary for us? I'm always doing the dictionary flipping.
Yeah, no, this is a good idea.
You're faster.
Oh, and that means y'all have to get faster.
Do you go to Nation Story first? Would that be your first choice?
That's usually that's the first place I go, because I'm just so familiar with that. It's what's so familiar to me. Anyone want to take us there? T'aawáḳ. Okay, so what do we need to go find? How are we going to find?
Hold on. This is the wrong dictionary.
That's the right dictionary.
There's the right dictionary. In my search bar, I might put whatever we're looking at.
Well, see, that's the hard part for me is remembering as I switch what the word is and how to spell it.
Starts with underline G.
Okay, so.
But is there a table of contents on there? Because when I look at mine, there's a table of contents.
Okay, Nilga Kuge.
You can.
Tell me what to do though. So we have the table of contents on the left-hand side.
Page 331.
Underline G.
You can just say it right there.
Whoa.
Quan Lane.
331 we're going to. How did you find that, Pauline? Well, I'm crying.
There's an underlined G on the left-hand side. That's kind of
yeah.
That's what I was trying to help.
So what are we looking for now? And can you zoom in one little bit? There. Oh, that's better. Was it with T'aawáḳ?
Yes.
Okay. So what are we looking for? We've got qeech. We found that.
Shkalneek. Fell trees clear.
Yes. So this is a verb to fell trees, which I think is how you usually use that word, right? We're going to fell a tree. We fell a tree. It's an interesting verb in English. So coming back, I would if I were writing this, I would say That's what I think it's saying, and there could be something though that I don't understand, which is as day, which is interesting to me.
Well, were they trying to say like, I don't know. I was saying like the tree something. Were they trying to indicate tree there? I don't know.
Well,
yes.
I'm wondering if they were going into the trees near the cleared land.
Oh.
Because when there's a clear cut, there's usually trees beyond it.
Well, if you said you're saying to the place where we fell trees. So verbiye is the place where that verb happens, right? So if we've got our favorite berry picking, which we don't tell anybody about, but we know, we could say we're going to go to our berry picking place. So that's how this thing can work. Is the verb itself can be in a whole bunch of different forms. Like, and we'll see this with ade, right? So, but that's why I would expect ye at the end. And it's a dangerous thing to change people's language. But if we're going to retype this for teaching people Lingít in a straightforward way, I would probably change this to yede. If it says wutushaqiji aste, that could be the place. Okay, so if it's that, the place where the tree that we fell is, which also works, but I think is it's one step more complicated. So then what you have here is you have Yeewooyáat'i, the tree that we fell. So what this would say, like, so we chopped down a tree. Then we went home and we had dinner. Now we're going back to chop it up into firewood. This is what I'm guessing based on the title of the story. So in this case, you have that place, the tree that we fell. This is another technique that you can use. You could say, if you want to say to the place where we killed that moose, right? So let's just try this out. Sorry, I gotta make a little thing here. I had to give a talk today and I had to give a talk yesterday. Both are very sad. I'm very sad about the things that I have to say these days. Okay, so if here we have right? So this we're saying is to the place of the tree we fell, right? And so Yeewooyáat'i is the tree that we fell. So this is another technique you can use. You could take some sort of verb, like so. For example, if I said T'aawációi saw, what does that say? Oops. Let me fix
The
that.
seal we ate?
Yes, the seal we ate. So now we could see the noun we verbed, right? Take it. This is a perfective. This is a perfective. You add this suffix on it, and now it's become an adjective of a noun, which is, and there's no limit to how you can use this stuff, right? And so you could also say, oh, this is it's an odd sentence, but it could happen.
The man we injured?
Yes, the person we injured. Right, so this could go on and on, right? And so, but now we have this and day. So now we're going to take a look at that. We'll put one right underneath it. And I want to say, to the place we killed a moose.
Awajagi, just
Yes, but I will
Awajagi,
accept the verb stem, but the prefix wouldn't be awajagi. I mean, we could, because like,
Yeewooyáat'i.
because maybe someone shot it, and we're like, oh, let's go to the place where they shot that. They gone. Okay, but that's bad. We don't want to do that. Okay. The other thing is when you put this attributive suffix on there, it flattens that tone. That is a high tone, right? So actually, this would actually go low as well. Right? And so now we got to put the day on there. Can I just put day on there like that?
yes.
It looks funny.
Something's got to happen now. There's just one last thing.
You used Yeewooyáat'i before.
Yeah. Mhm.
We're not going to
So I
use
think we have,
We kind of
No?
cracked the code with what we're doing with what's going on with the ahs.
Does it just have to be high tone?
No, because the previous vowel is high. But there's something in between those two things.
Would it just be a space?
What? It's not
Make it
this.
long.
Well, shady.
Ooh.
I think something has to happen right there. But maybe.
It's a U?
I think it's going to turn into a U. Because I don't think you can go zisco day and get to go zisco day. That's just what happens. That's just what's going to happen. It's just because it has to vocalize because it's too hard to do otherwise. Like, hey, that's good. That's good stuff. But now, okay. So, okay, here's this one might be. And so this is actually saying, well, it's to the place. It's interesting because place is in there, but you're really saying to that moose we killed. We kill the moose. We gotta go back, pick up our four-wheeler, haul it over, and all of our cutting up gear, whatever we're gonna do, right? Okay, let's see.
You could just say to the moose we killed.
Yeah, to the moose we killed. But it's got this ah in there, which is really interesting, right? So we're gonna go there. I guess a literal translation would probably be, we're gonna go there to the moose we killed. And so the place is sort of still there. So I guess the place where that moose we killed is. That's another way. I don't know. Because
Why don't you say day with to a juggy disc?
okay, so when you have day with to a juggy, my brain is waiting for this. Wait, this. So what happens is we're going towards the noun. Like the is really interesting to me because I do think you could say let's go to that moose that we killed. Let's go there, right? And so when we look at the structure of this, T'aawáḳ stay. So that's interesting to me that that's the way it's going. So I do think it's like the place where that tree we felled is. Gulchish for the past tense, felled. Okay, so what about, let's go to the bucket we filled. I'll do the part.
Ducate,
Well, it's a bucket, not a container.
not a container. Okay.
How do we? Okay.
Isha.
Filled it with. Here's the important one. We don't have to say berries, but that's what we filled it with. Not water.
What to what in?
Well, tu'in would be we picked it. So you could say a related thing could be wutu ini kleq. That's the berries we picked. And you could have kanata, you could have shak, you could have a specific berry. But if you wanted to talk about the berries that we picked, like you could say anakwatua'at, wutu ini kleq. We left those berries behind that we picked. But what I'm trying to get us to say is to the bucket we filled. What is full of solids?
Shower.
Shkalneek. So if we wanted to say a full bucket, T'aawáḳ bucket.
Isha.
Get away. But that would be towards the full bucket. So that's close. What about the bucket we filled? Do we know that one?
Shkalneek.
That would be.
Shatu. No.
It says on the right track, but then it's the verb root switching makes it full of water. We filled it with water.
T'aawáḥ.
So we have T'aawáḥ. Where did I close my verb dictionary? Was I pouting that much that I closed? Okay, hold on. Let me go check. I think I just closed that thing right up. Okay. So let's go look up fill.
Shkalneek.
Well,
that's yeek as the verb root. Y-E underline K. So maybe Asha-nayik.
Okay, so we see, here's the T'aawáḥ verb right here, to be full. And this is showing us in the future. When we look right underneath it, the difference between these two is this is to be full and this is to fill it up. So the L classifier, it's a straightforward switch. So you could say T'aawáḥ and you could say Shkalneek. I filled the bucket, right, with solids. So here we got Hayagu, T'aawáḥ. Probably gives it to us right there, except their two is too long. So that would be T'aawáḥ. So yan a T'aawáḥ Yeewooyáat'i. They filled the day. Oh. Kate T'aawáḥ. This town is full of. Wait. Kate T'aawáḳ. This this town is full of dog poop. Okay. So now we got the L classifier. So we should be able to come back, do our final one before we go back to our story. T'aawáḥ. Isha day. Okay. Good stuff. There's okay, sentence number 2 of this story. These are so good. I'm glad that you brought it up.
I think you've missed a ooh in the shawutu.
Oops. Shall to where?
Wutu?
No, it would be because you have wutu, yes. But once you put sha on there, that says now you got too many things.
Okay, goodness cheese.
That's gonna contract. Just like you'd have kautusha, kautuja. Yeah, goodness cheese.
Is there a rule to kind of trigger that in our brains, or just like a thing that you have to remember?
For the contractions?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's a good question. So let's see. So a while ago, let me find this thing first. Maybe this is helpful. I don't know. So there's a couple of things that might be helpful for this. One is the conjugator. So this slideshow, which I'll put up again, is, I think, honestly, it should just be printed as a little book. Because what it is, you could flip through it and look up every subject prefix for the major modes for every single classifier combination. So when we go through here, we were talking, I was talking with T'aawáḳ about this idea he has of building a spreadsheet that builds prefixes for you. The prefix builder is very interesting. That's when AI is going to start speaking Tlingit for us. If we could give it that, then the Burminator will begin to. Okay, so there's a couple things to go through here, and we'll go back to the story because we read the story and it's wonderful. And now we have that story. We'll keep going back through each sentence because it's also very full language. It's very good stuff. But it's going to raise questions, and as we go through the questions, we're going to come back in and talk about things that we're using to like fill our mind with how the language functions. So a big thing is there are 4 conjugation spots, right? There are 4. And we were going over this. I've got these kind of 2 slideshows that we looked at towards the end of last semester, I guess. So there's that one, which is the conjugator, and there's this one, which is called prefix contraction basics. So let me tell you what these things are. So the conjugator is like your cheat sheet to just look up a prefix. Be like, I don't know. I don't want to learn how they all go together right now. Or I'm still learning. I just need to look it up so I could say we filled up the bucket, right? And so you don't want those berries to be moldy by the time you figure out how to say it. But we do want to figure out how the things function. So this does go through like kind of goes through each of these sections. Like, so these are the major parts of the Tlingit verb that I think folks need to understand, with the conjugation perhaps being the most important. Like, we do need to know objects and subjects. Although when we change those, it's not easy, but you look here and you change from cha to tu. You change from ha to yi, right? So it's a bit of a straightforward switch. It starts to interact with other things, sure. But with here, like, to identify what these things are, I think it takes a lot of repetition and examples. So I think last year, at some point, I took a trip to Whitehorse. I think it was in the spring. And on the ferry back, I had ideas about how to make these 2 slideshows. And so I think I'm going to put them to text as well so people can read it, look at it, and then see a whole bunch of examples. But so what are these things? So in the conjugation prefix area, you have 4 spots. They go horizontal. You hear number 1 first, and you say number 1 first. 1, 2, 3, 4. I do believe you can only have 3. And here's generally what you sort of have. In spot number 1, you have ga, which is the ga conjugation. So what this says, it says, I am linked to every ga conjugation verb. You want to say be good? Igak-e. You want to say be sick? Iganik. You could say it. That's a weird thing to say. But I guess if you're like in the, I don't know, don't say it. But if you want to say be strong, ikshitzin. It's contracted, and we'll learn why. If you want to say get up, it's gidahan, which is ga, and I becomes gi, gaidanak. So this says, I am here for all ga conjugation verbs. But I have a second job. I am here for every future verb. Ga has 2 jobs. Pops up in the command, hortative, potential, and habitual for all ga conjugation verbs. And it's going to be in this exact spot. That means if there's an irialis, the irialis comes later. So I wanted to put a puzzle up at the hockey rink because we were talking about how to put more Tlingit up at the, what's an ice rink? not just a hockey rink. But they have locker rooms where people go to change. And if you've ever played hockey or have kids or anybody you know who plays hockey, that stuff stinks horribly if you don't take good care of it. So I was saying, K'dain Yichetin, Yi A Yi. Igushchanqa. So igushchanqa is so you don't stink. So the ga conjugation pops up there, right? Okay. But it is in front of the irialis. Ga, qa for futures. The irialis says, I pop up when there's some disconnection from reality. Doesn't mean the verb doesn't happen, but if it doesn't, I'm there. If it's future, I'm there because it hasn't happened yet. If you're comparing two things, I'll be there. When you say Yeewooyáat'i, it's in there every time because you say it looks like it, but it's not it, right? So that's what the irialis says. It says there's some kind of break with reality, so I got to pop up and go, oh. It's in all negatives. Qa conjugation has one job. It pops up for qa conjugation verbs. Nothing else. It's the only job it does. Qanu, I'm there. Hortative, right? I'm there. Potential, habitual, I'll be there. But it has to be a qa conjugation verb. That has to be the type of the verb. Na conjugation has two jobs, just like ga. And these, you can only have one or the other of these. Actually, when you say ga, qa, and na, you can only have one of those. You can never have two of those. But even though they sit on different spots, they're like, oh, you're here? I ain't gonna be here. So na has a job for command, hortative, potential, and habitual of all na conjugation verbs. Nata, go to bed. Yena, teach. It's always that way. Maybe I'll break the daylight on you. It's right there. But it's also in all progressives. Anagút, Anasquain, Yenashquain, Yeewooyáat'i we keet. So it has two jobs. On the fourth spot, you have either the perfective or the qa mode. The perfective pops up for all perfectives and for zero conjugation habituals. Right there. It's written right there. Qa mode pops up in all future, hortative, purposive, potential, and conditionals. So you can have qa and qa. That's why you say qaqasti. Any questions about that?
For the irialis, does that, why isn't it listed for conditionals and hortatives? Because those haven't happened, they may not happen.
It just doesn't pop up there.
Okay.
I mean, it pops up in a potential. Did I have it in there?
Yeah, no.
I do now. But for a hortative, it's not, because the hortative is saying, let it be that way. Or let it happen.
But it hasn't happened yet. So is
Well,
it a disconnect still from reality?
Not really, because also with a command, right? Because I guess Lingists are like, when I say do it, it's going to happen.
On the perfective, I was expecting that if it's in the habitual for null conjugation, that fact belongs in the column that says specific to conjugation type.
Okay, say that again.
We have y, meaning perfective, and we said it happens in the perfective everywhere.
Yes.
It only happens in the habitual for null conjugation types.
Yes.
So doesn't that line about habitual belong in the column about conjugation type?
Okay, so that's a good question. So this is saying,
oh, okay.
This only has to do with ga, and na. It's
Right.
just saying like, this is doesn't matter, because it could be, yeah. I guess I see what you're saying, yes.
I mean, I think we need a 5-dimensional chart is what we need. Yes. I thank you. I understand now. There's no box for the null conjugation. Okay.
Yes. So all progressives, they're not just becoming na conjugation. It's just saying na has this other job to do. It says I pop up. I don't care what conjugation you are. If you have a progressive imperfective, you need me to do it. Just like ga has to be in every single future. It doesn't matter. Conjugate, it's like, I don't care about that. Everybody can ga in the future. Other,
I know, I can see from this chart why you can only have three slots. Because if you have 1, you can have 2 and 4, but not 3, because ga, ha, and na all have the same function.
Yes.
And similarly, if you have 3, you can have 2, 3, and 4, but you can't have 1, because that would be the same function.
Yeah, so 1 and 3 contain the same types of things, and they can only you can only have one of those things. Yes. Very good.
And Renee, I don't know if I'm reading this right either, but why do you just have ga for the conditional? Like, wouldn't that be?
Oh, that should be here too, yeah?
Well, I don't know. That's what I'm asking you. Like, for all of them, I would think, eh? But, or for na as well, but yeah.
Yeewooyáat'i. Gulchish, achiki dishi.
The chat has a question. Well,
I think you answered it already.
Yeah, with the na. Yep.
Except, okay, I'm still trying to wrap my head around though. What bearing does a na conjugation have if there is no progressive imperfective?
So for any of these modes, then that na will be activated. Right? So if you have a na conjugation verb, like to go somewhere, say wede nagu. Wede nachtua. That's why you say nachtua. Nachtu. It's going to give you nachtu every time. That's why I was trying to call lettuce, like the vegetable, nachtu. Because then I could just laugh and pretend it's not hard. Let me have my dumb jokes. Okay. I don't know if our language will survive, but these jokes will probably live forever.
Away.
I'm pretty sure our language will live. And the jokes, because we have to have both. Okay. Other thoughts or questions? Then we'll get to the patterns. So go ahead.
Sorry, I've tried to process this so many times. So if I'll just stick with a na conjugation. So na should show up in all those forms on the chart there. The hortative, I forget what the others were. Yeah, the potential, habitual, conditional, every single one of those forms should have a na.
Yes.
As well as progressive imperfective in any verb, regardless of conjugation type.
Correct.
Okay.
So like
All right.
this one is saying, when does that conjugation prefix as a conjugation prefix appear? So that means if it's ga verb, you're going to get it here. If it's qa, you're going to get it here. Na, you're going to get it here. So the answer to that is command, hortative, potential, habitual, and conditional all require you to activate whatever the conjugation prefix is of the verb. So that's why you got to just kind of remember that, right? If you want to command someone to see something, you'll say qasatin. Behold it, which I don't know, Sounds like you got to be on a mountain or something, and I got to give you these tablets. The tablets with like the verb modes on it.
Gussetine way firm.
Yes, Gussetine way mode. Okay, and so, yeah, that's what this chart is showing you. But and so it's trying to put like a lot of, it's complicated, but there's only so many things, which we always run into with Lingít. And so the Wednesday classes is when we look at these mystical charts and try to like demystify them, because it's all comprehensible and digestible by human beings, which we are. Although a friend of mine posted, he was like, people are posting like some kind of DNA thing on social media. And so I don't know where it's coming from, but I don't know if he faked it, but it said like 1% alien. It was funny. Okay. So coming back to the perfective. So now here's this other thing that on the right-hand side gives you the answer for what would that prefix be. You have a 0 classifier. That's what it's showing you up in the, that's why it's right above the word classifier. So now the classifier is going to be ya all the time for a positive perfective. Hua, watua, iya or ye, ua or wu, awa, and wadua. Those are what your prefixes will be. And then here it shows you what those components are. Y, cha, ya. Y, t, ya. And so we did have, what was it? Ch, for shao tu tlehik. So we do have w tu tlehik. 1, 2, 3. But this does not have thematic prefixes on it. So once we add that, now we have 4 things, and something has to go. So when you have wututle, none of those have to go. You can have 3 things. I know that there's a 3 strikes and you're out rule, but I think you really get a 4th strike. It's 3 things, and then things really do start to contract, but they don't have to, because there's nothing pushing on w. But if something, now you've got sh, y, t, tle. You can't say shubututlehik. It's too many things. So that's where you get shao tutle. Okay, I saw a hand go. Masa?
I noticed on the previous slide that the second person singular and I think it might have been the third person, those were the only 2 in the perfective that had 2 variations in their contractions. I think the third person was uwa, yeah, iya and yi in the second person singular, and then uwa and wu. Why do those 2 have 2 variations, and the others only have a single? And when do those variations appear?
Yeah. So Lingít is, I went to a steak restaurant one time and they gave us like a menu that was like literally 40 pages long. And I was like, can I just get food? Can I, and it's like, what do we recommend? Because at that point I'm just like, I don't know. It's too many things. So Lingít has a lot of things. So you have 0 classifier here, right? And this is really the only one that does it. 0 classifier, second person, third person. This is 0 conjugation. This is everything else. This is also 0 conjugation. This is everything else. So that's why you'd say hot uwagut, neish uwagut, dark uwagut, hit day wugut. Hot iyagut, neish iyagut, dark iyagut, way day ye good. So the thing there, so like we can remember the conjugation prefix of a verb. So for example, I would say if you ate it, it would be iyecha. But if you slept, it would be yita. That's how it works, right? And so, but the key with this one is it has to be just a simple third person. If you have an object on there as well, it won't do it. It's just it's a one little wrinkle in this slide. But yes, that's a good question. Anything else? So coming in, so this one does show us so this chart shows us all of the prefix examples for perfective verbs. Chwa, chwede, chwase, chwedze, chwele, chwedle, chweshe, chwedje. But if you look at all of these ones that are the ya, right? So the zero classifier. Those are ones you got to kind of remember those. Hua, watua, yi or iya, yi, wu or uwa, awa. But if you look at everything else, once you go on a row, like if you go along the row right here, starting with huade, D, S, D, Z, L, D, L, S, H, J, that single letter is the only thing that changes there. All the way across. Watude, watuse, watudze, watutle, watudle, watushu, watuje. So once you learn that form, changing the classifier means you change one single letter. One single letter. And it's a big jump, but it's sort of, the idea here is once you learn how to put these things together, you could change the classifier and it's not going to scramble you, right? Because you say, watusaku, we know it. We know it, right? But then we could also say, watushaqij, we felled the tree.
Okay.
How's everybody doing? That's a lot.
Are we going to go back to the pattern itself? I think that would be.
Was that like 3 hours ago?
That's so last T'aawáḳ.
Okay. So what are Achjanaq T'aawáḳ Wujachin?
Stone.
Achjanaq T'aawáḳ. What can I do? I think I can copy this, maybe. I don't know. Achjanaq.
Leave me.
Go.
T'aawáḳ. This is high.
I left.
From my hand.
Tossed it away.
Okay. So I would say there's one verb here. So maybe we start with that. Back to the verb dictionary.
Yeah. Wujahim. Him.
Do you see it? For a hard, solid object to fall or drop. If we go look up fall, if we want to see what it looks like, what kind of examples they might have for it. So fall, we're looking for wujachin now. Qat dujidach wujachin. The pot fell from their hand. Okay, they dropped it. So coming back, so wujachin. So we have it fell. If we want to sort of look at how those things, we got a zero object, we got a perfective marker, we got the classifier, and we've got chin. Sort of going backwards in our sentence. What about T'aawáḳ?
Rock is te.
Then we've got
From behind the rock.
rock, behind, kind of along, I guess. And then jnaq.
Dropped right through. Maybe.
Like let it go or something along those lines?
Yeah. I don't know if I have this one well documented. The jnaq. Oops, what am I doing? So it does get confusing because jnaq is a verb. But we know this isn't the verb. How do we know this isn't? The verb, what is the verb? What would that mean?
Let it go.
Imperative.
Right. So there's Elsa on the mountaintop singing to us.
But why would you have a pronoun, possessive pronoun in front of that verb?
Oh, that doesn't make sense, right? So then okay, so this is jnaq. Okay. So when you say jnaq, it's a little complicated. Because if you say jidach, that's a little more straightforward, perhaps. You could do all three of these. They're doing very similar types of things in terms of how they're putting things together. What would they translate to? So what is G?
From my hand?
G is possession.
Okay, from my possession.
What is nach? Roughly.
Through?
Through. So now we have again possession.
From.
So now we have possession. Naq. Naq Yeewooyáat'i. Naq Yeewooyáat'i.
I think it's one of the few things that English would say with a verb, but can get used as a different part of speech.
It's an interesting one, right? So if I said naq Yeewooyáat'i, I'm probably not going to be happy about it when I say it.
Without.
Yeah, it'd be like you left me behind. What the heck? I thought we were a team. Okay. I was laughing because a friend of mine took their kids, 3 kids skiing, and I think when they were 2 of them were skiing by themselves, and then when they all got together, the 2 that were skiing by themselves were crying. I'm like, what's going on? And they said, we thought you went home without us. And it's like, what would trigger that thought? Like we're up on the ski resort and up on the mountain. We would just like, they're not here. Time to go, right? So, anyways, kids can think interesting things. So naq is to leave something behind. It's a little bit different. Like it's a different. It's interesting that it's a concept, right? So like the way we sort of think about how this works, I think, is you'd say su he de shugach ya kus ge da kate ha jich naq has cow de keet. Right, so a lot of us who know how to sing this song, like songs are really interesting to me in Lingít, because we learn how to sing them, but then maybe we're just learning sounds. We're not really learning meaning. That's just what happens when you start losing your language. It's a bunch of people know songs, but it's just like they know that this sound and then this sound and this sound, right? So these are the parts, 3 parts. So when you say tsu hede shagachtutan, hede shagachtutan, here's our verb. And what does this phrase mean?
In the box.
Again,
we will open a hinged container, which includes things with heavy lids that you have to just lift up.
So does it not include light lids?
No, because you would, well, if you lifted it so the back stayed on. But if you just pulled it off, no. If you just pulled it off, nope. Like taking the lid off of a pot.
Right. But
Unless you tipped it up and you left the back so it did act like a hinge.
okay, but the hinge is the important part, not
Yeah.
the weight. But
Because
can
you could
it
say,
a heavy lid?
"Su hede shagachtutan, yakahat," will open this door again.
Oh, okay.
But it wouldn't be a window if you turn the crank for it, even though it has a hinge.
It's not necessarily a lid, but anything that opens with a hinge.
Yes,
Okay.
it's opening a hinged thing. I don't know.
The wardrobe in that corner?
With the skulls in it?
I don't know what's in it. It's locked. I want to see the skulls.
I want to see. That's what I've heard. That's the rumor. But yeah, yes, that would. So hede shagachtutan, ya ka shakachagu dakit. We will open the container of empty skulls. Okay. Ya yakuske dakate. No verbs there. We ain't scared of them. Not scared. A little bit. Not a lot.
Ducate, a container. Oh. The knowledge. Kuske.
Wisdom container, this box of wisdom is usually. Now we get to this part, which makes the whole phrase very interesting. If, right? Because usually I've heard this, we will again open this box of wisdom left in our care. That's how I usually hear it translated. I would say it's wrong, but I would also say that it's not accurate. Oh. Okay, there's a verb here.
The huskowdikit.
Huskowdikit. Good job spotting the verbs. So, what do we know what that verb is? Huskowdikit.
Was it they died off?
Well, anuk, yes, but it's a little bit more. There's a little bit more to it, right?
Okay.
Yes, it does function that way, but in a metaphorical way. So I want us to understand the metaphor. So we'll go to keet. So when we look at keet, this is what we have: cow de keet. So we recognize that, right? Ka de keet. State. So there's only an object there. All for a whole group of people to all leave or go, to just move in a mass. Like it doesn't, like it could just be a big group of people going into the Taylor Swift concert, a big group of people walking down to the beach. Just as this group of people all went at once. But it does mean to die off. So we'll go look up leave just to see examples, and we'll look up die off to see how this is working. So when we go to leave, we get shtakat at yetki kaudakit. All the children have left. Yek kandakit. The people are coming down to the beach. Like there's a big mass of them coming down. When it says leaving only a few behind, like that's not in there. That's just sort of like what the speaker was probably thinking about. So like you could use it as a motion verb, and yeah, T'aawáḳ. Okay. So now let's go look up to die off. So T'aawáḳ has T'aawáḳ. So what makes it dying off is that we have been left behind. That's what does it. Because you can also use this metaphor with, you could say Anagút. And there's just certain contexts and situations where we would know you're talking about somebody very close to you who died, because you feel like they left it, like it's a very sad kind of a statement actually, because like they left us behind, right? So they all went off in a mass, and now we're here. So coming back to how this works, then coming back to T'aawáḳ, Hajik Anaq Haskaudak. We will open this wisdom container. It is in our possession. They died off from it. So like this song has a very heavy phrase. It's like they died off and they left it here. Right? They all died off from this wisdom container, and now we have it. So when you say coming back this is like one sentence per 30 minutes, whatever. Nobody's in a race. It left my possession. So when you say that's usually, as soon as I heard that, I would think, oh, you must have lost something. Because you wanted it, right? Like it's kind of built in there. So isn't necessarily, you could just say, that's from, I gave it to you. Right? This is for you. This is for your mother from me. Or you could say, so you could use it in different ways like that. And jinach means through the possession. But usually, like I heard speakers say things like, hajinach. I think it was Nora. She said, hajinach dak is hayuchatangi. It's just, she said, it's like a parachute just drifting out of our hands. Again, it was very sad, but she was very happy with her metaphor. I remember her telling me about it. So here, it fell behind a rock from my possession. I dropped it. That's what I would sort of get with all of that. So
me, I was looking up that Achjina while you were talking there a while ago, and sometimes it just means away from me. Is how it's translated. Just yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, yeah, I would think of, let's say I was going up on the roof to work on something, and I dropped a hammer, and it just went all the way down the ground. That would definitely be achjinak, because I'm like, well, now it's way down there, and I am up here, and I climbed all the way up here with it. Which, those types of things happen, right? So that would be ha achjinak wujjahim. And then you go back down the ladder. Was there another question or thought?
Yeah, I just had a thought. You were saying that maybe this is often translated, the phrase from George Davis is often translated slightly different. And you think it might be not wrong, but just differently translated or something.
I think it's like, let's give them the hopeful version. Like it doesn't have all your ancestors dying off, but it's sort of like, if you look in the context of that speech, which we'll look at it this semester, we'll look at this, there's this whole series of speeches that we had an idea, some of you went to the language gathering. It was in November, like probably 5, 6 years ago. A lot of speakers, some kind of interesting politics on who could get across a line and who couldn't. It was an imperfect gathering, but it was the largest gathering of Lingít speakers that, as far as like the birth speakers who were born into the language at a time when we had lots of high fluency speakers, like that had the most. Like there were so many who were there. There were several who couldn't make it, but it was also the last time I saw quite a few of those speakers that I'd worked with quite a bit, you know. But what we did for that gathering is, like, I know in that because we cherish you speeches, there were lots of speakers who talked. But also I know that George Davis and Charlie Joseph had a lot of back and forth with each other. Both of them are wonderful. I got to do the Charlie Joseph ones. But what I wanted to do is just take everything, every speech act by George Davis and just run it through so you could just hear everything like back to back to back. The greatest hits album for Kitchnach. And then we had the text scrolling through. I know that there's one spot where it repeats itself. There's a little bit of a glitch in it that I have to fix. But at some point, we'll listen to the whole thing and we'll read the text. And we'll see, like, he talks about a lot of heavy stuff. And it's part of a very heavy speech, because in there he says things like, we had already given up hope. But now look at this. And so it is a hopeful message, but it's a complex, hopeful message. Because I think it's something that's important for our people to hear, is that it's really up to us. It really is. And so as you folks do this work, I really appreciate it. There's not a lot of people who do the work and stick with it this far. I know some people think that there are other ways to do this, and there probably are. But as far as effective methods of getting people to be able to speak and understand the language, I haven't seen them yet. You know, I do know I was conveying some frustration, and somebody sort of said, well, maybe you need to try a different approach. And like, I try different approaches all the time. And I don't want to be closed off to suggestions and ideas. But if someone's going to tell me to do it different, they should really be here and be doing it as well. But as far as like looking at the complexity of this stuff, this is 2 sentences of like, it's literally called Click It Short Stories. It's like, well, what are the long stories? Good grief. But I think what we're doing here is showing like how we can comprehend this stuff so we could do it ourselves. Because if you see you could now change. So that says, a while ago, this morning, or a while ago, well, earlier this morning, I guess, when you put those 2 things together, we were boating to that tree to the place where that tree is, what we felt. So now you can use that as you could say, later on today, we're going to boat to the place we pick berries. Like we can, and we'll learn how to do that stuff, right? So you could say, Ziyagen, Yayagi, Gachtu Kuch, Kagachtu Kit Yede. So it's doing a little bit different thing with the ye as opposed to the berry. I guess you could say we're going to go to that berry we're going to pick, but we're usually not going there to pick one berry, right? So it's a little bit dramatic. That's the blueberry, right? So, but anyways, Kesh Ade Dan Koniya. That's a fun one. Anybody know what that is saying? We don't have time to break the whole thing down.
I don't know, but before I move on, I really didn't comprehend the second sentence. I was wondering if you could give us a translation.
Of this one?
Prior one.
Oh, this? Yes. It fell from my hands behind a rock.
But it doesn't say what it is.
Yes.
Because
That's
it
yeah.
doesn't have to yet.
Yes. We got a cliffhanger, folks. Stay tuned.
Okay.
And the next episode of Advanced Lingít. What fell behind the rock? Okay. Your key to going home. Well, the away part is there, but you don't really need it. You can say dan.
Maybe something like there was no possible way that I could work on it, something like that.
Yeah. So we have the working on it. And so without sort of saying what the thing is, the way I would translate this is there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. So the way we hear this verb a lot is like dasaye da ine. This is that same verb. Da ine, dachane, ye dachane, kesh ade dan kwaneyi ye. So what's interesting is what you'll learn is you could say kwash dan kwane. Maybe I'll work on it. Maybe I'll work on it. But you can't say that because you better work on it. I'm just kidding. Okay. So.
Well, with the yade, not to keep everyone from going home, but why isn't the place that nothing can happen?
Wait, it's not the place. When you have ade, yeah, when you have klesh ade, complicated verby, yeah, the verb can't happen.
Okay. So I get the verb can't happen, but in other examples when we've had ade and ye, it's been the place where that
Without ade.
Okay.
So if you say, well, it couldn't be done kwanei. But if you say, ye dachanei, yeah, the place I work on it.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it'll be the place I work on my truck, the place I work on Lingít, which would be everywhere.
That's, what part is that? That means.
So if you just had verby yeah, right? So like, let's take a look at, if you say, yeah, the place we felled trees. Okay. And you could have the verb in any form, and that's the place where that verb happened, right? But then if you have, and usually you're going to have in front of it. But if you say ade yeah, the way we felled trees. So yeah on its own is the place that verb happened. Ade yeah, the way the verb happened. Kesh ade, it's got to be complicated. It's got to be in the potential form. Kesh ade potential verb yeah. There's no way that verb can happen.
I'm gonna have to watch the recording on that.
No, it's okay. No, we'll do it next week. We don't have to do that right now. But what we do have to do, I see a couple of hands up. So let's do the hands in order that I see them, and then talk about what we need to study over the weekend to get ready for our wonderful, rich conversation that's going to happen on T'aawáḳ. Tasha Akulkhait or Hande Ijin.
Hey, I think Casey left, but I believe he's restarting a 5:30 to 5 to 6:30 on Thursday evening. Say it in Tlingit time. Tlingit Chénach sa Gau at the Language Learning Lab, snacks and so forth. And so please come by. It's really high quality time. So that's tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, and I've also not fully developed this idea, but tonight on our class webpage, tlingitlanguage.com, Learning Tlingit, Advanced Tlingit, I'm going to post a link that says the Tlingit, I don't know what to call it, Tlingit study room timetable or something. I'll think of some great name for it. But it's a grid where you can pick a time spot to just be there for an hour and talk to people in Lingít and answer questions when people pop in. if you want to lead a study group. I'm really encouraging advanced students and learners and all teachers of Lingít to sign up for a spot. Because one of the big problems is we don't have enough times and places to use the language. So the idea is to build community by just being there. By the emergency phone. By the red phone. Kashuk.
Okay, you said you're going to answer about Monday, but I worked up a question in Lingít about Monday, so can I just practice? Okay. Dasoe ha lekyagi nadak T'aawáḳ ge.
Oh.
Something like that. What's our conversation on Monday?
Yeah. So what's really interesting to say, like, what about? Because you have dasa, and then you have da or dot. Okay. I gotta show you.
Sorry.
It's a fun thing. No, it's a fun thing. I think it's fun. But okay, let's do it. So you have dasa, and then you have dot, like about something, right? So what's interesting is if you put anything in between da and sa, what happens? It's got to change, right? Anybody know how it changes? A T has a T pops up there. So when you say what about, you say dot dot sa. That's one of my favorite things because it's so silly. And it also it completely makes sense. Dat yanachsa, what's more than it? Dat sa, what's less than it? Okay. Dat dat sa with nadak yach. What are we going to talk about around the table?
Pets.
Okay. So the question is, what pets do you have?
Or what would you like? What pets would you like? Or have you had?
Well, I was thinking it could, like when we, in beginning think out, we were being like, like, what do you have? We could say, if we ask, like, what pets do you have? We can say, we don't have pets, but I want, or I don't have pets because of. And so I was thinking that could be a really good conversation path, because then we'll hear some people, right? Some people will say, no, but I want this, or no, I don't like pets, or no, I have allergies, no, I rent, no, my pet is myself, or my pet is my friends, or we could say yes and talk all we want about our pets. And then we can hear people and how they structure their sentences, saying yes or no, how to expand on a yes or no question, which I think is really great for conversation practice, because often I'm more comfortable asking people a yes or no question. This is me personally, but I don't just want or click in response. Like I would like a full sentence. So that was kind of my thought. But
I like it.
Also do a sock Shkalneek pets.
Yeah, we have a word for it.
You do. Yeah. To have? Would it be G? Just off the clause question.
Well, I don't know. You could use Jiwoo. I'm sure a lot of people would, but I could say T'aawáḳ keitli. T'aawáḳ keitli. My dogs are two, and that also makes sense. Okay, I had to bring the word for pet on Monday. I got to go dig for it, but I got to go now. Chishuan, Wukecha.
Jagen Shidka ha.
Okay.